welcome to the first committee meeting for Senate Public Safety of this year. Glad to have everyone here. We're going to begin, as we always do, with a blessing, and Senator Bearden, I will recognize you.
Yeah, let's pray. Lord, I ask that you just bless us with wisdom and guidance as we do the work of the people of the state of Georgia. Bless everyone in this room, and always let's remember that the ultimate sacrifice that Christ paid on the cross in his blood to save this world and not to condemn it. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We do have sign-up sheets. Actually, put those back out there for a moment, please. That are right up here. If you want to sign up to speak for or against the bill, I do want to remind everybody you have to fill out all the different boxes if you want to speak. So please make sure if you did that, we have all your information. Today we're going to do a few things. We're going to begin because this is a new legislative biennial and the committees were just reconstituted. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones for appointing this very important committee and allowing me to serve as chair again. And I'm going to ask everybody to just begin and go down the line and do a very, very brief introduction of yourself, just really your name and what district and area you represent as part of the committee. And I'm going to begin with Vice Chair, Senator Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm State Senator Randy Robertson, District 29. I cover the part of the state from Columbus, Georgia, up to LaGrange and all areas in between. Thank you.
Senator Williams.
Thank you. I'm Rick Williams from Milledgeville, District 25. I have all of Baldwin, Putnam, Jones, Jasper, Butts, part of Bibb, part of Henry counties.
All right, Senator Goodman.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Russ Goodman. I represent the 8th Senate District down in South Georgia. That is all of Lowndes, all of Eccles, all of Clinch, all of Lanier, all of Atkinson, about 65% of Ware, and all of Pierce.
All
So
right.
we've got a congressional district down there.
All right, Senator Halpern.
Good afternoon. I am Senator Halpern. I represent District 39. Not nearly as complicated. My district is entirely within Fulton County, and I am based out of Atlanta, and I've got neighborhoods in Atlanta and 4 other counties headed south.
Thank you. Senator Jackson.
Hi, I'm Kim Jackson. I represent District 41, which includes Stone Mountain, Tucker, and the city, Pine Lake, and Clarkston.
Wonderful. And I'm very excited to introduce our newest member, Senator Wicks, who is not new necessarily to the Senate, as she served to assist Senator C. when she was a member of this committee for many years. So very excited. Senator, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Senator Kenya Wicks, and I represent parts of Fayette and Clayton County.
Very good. All right, we're going to move over to Senator Payne.
Good afternoon, Senator Chuck Payne. I represent represent Gordon County, Whitfield County, and Murray County, Northwest Georgia, in the Dalton area, Calhoun area. And for that, I served 30 years with Georgia Department of Juvenile Probation as a state probation officer with Georgia Department of Juvenile Justice.
Thank you. And we're just doing quick introductions. Good timing. Senator Strickland, we're just going to do a brief intro.
Thank you. I took the elevator, so I'm not out of breath at least. Brian Strickland from District 42, which I live in McDonough, covers most of Henry, most of Newton, all of Morgan, and South and West Walton counties. Second year being on the committee, so I think I'm ex officio, but I guess that still counts when we vote. So thank you all. Look forward to working with you.
Thanks, Senator. And Senator Bearden.
Good afternoon. I'm Senator Bearden. I cover parts of Paulding County, Douglas County, Carroll County, all of Haralson County, but none of Alabama as of yet. So
They could use your help. All right. First order of business is going to be to adopt our committee rules. If you will see stapled in the inside of your folders, they are the same rules that we have operated on for at least the last 7 biennials that I have served. If there are any questions, I would take those now. I got a question from Senator Halpern.
On rule number 1, it says 4, but it's got the number 5. Which one do we intend?
That's a very good question. That's a typo. We're going to make that 5. We'll make sure that they are updated. Thank you. All right. Good catch. Other questions or comments? If not, with the change of striking out 4 and making it 5 to be consistent with the number, could I get a motion to approve the rules?
Motion to pass.
Motion do pass from our vice chairman, and I've got a second from our committee secretary. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. It passes unanimously. All right, we're knocking things out. All right, next thing, inside of your folders, you have a copy of the final recommendations of the Senate Public Safety Subcommittee on the Fulton County Jail. A little bit of a background. We experienced some pretty significant challenges at the jail. Quite a few people who have lost their lives. Several of us in this committee were reached out to based on some of that. I do have the honor of representing part of Fulton County, Cobb, and Cherokee. And with that, I worked with Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, and we decided to form a Senate study committee to look at that when we were out of session. And that committee started and went through a good portion of last year, started the year prior. And it was led by probably the most capable and experienced person, which is Senator Randy Robertson, who was the chairman of the subcommittee, having a background in working in a jail and for a sheriff. So with that, the meetings were very thorough, very detailed. I want to thank all the people that came to present at it. We did release the draft of that earlier back last summer. And today, we're going to give him just a moment to review the findings of that and then vote to formally adopt the report based on your votes. So with that, I'm going to turn that over to Chairman Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank all the committee members who served on the subcommittee. I want to thank all of the witnesses who came in. We had an array of experts throughout the spectrum related to jails. And probably we tackled the most complicated understanding of jails in the first meeting, where we had an expert come in and explain the difference between a jail and a prison. Sadly, throughout our communities, the vast majority of our citizens do not understand the difference, the role and responsibilities of a county jail as opposed to a prison. We can blame that on anything from television to movies to video games, but the ultimate responsibility rests in the lap of government. We do a very poor job of communicating to our citizens what the processes are in those places and where their tax dollars go when it comes to running those places. But based on all of the expert testimony that came in, that not only did it involve individuals who had worked, operated jails, and law enforcement professionals, but also concerned groups and citizens throughout the community of Fulton County and beyond that had grave concerns not only about the Fulton County jails, but jails in general. And it also included individuals such as the Georgia Sheriff's Association and others who play a vital role in providing the resources and necessary training throughout the state of Georgia, so that our 159 sheriff's offices understand the importance of jails and how they are properly operated, even though all 159 counties here in Georgia do not have county jails. And so after all of that being done, to the committee members, I will tell you there are 17 recommendations in the draft report. I will briefly run down the list as you have the full list in front of you. As you see, the Fulton County, number one is the Fulton County Commission oversee all tax money allocated for construction of a new Fulton County jail or for the renovation of existing facilities. This recommendation came from a common problem that we all have when we deal in local government. Everybody has an opinion, and that is great. Everybody has an interest, and that is great. But everybody can't be in charge for something to be done and done correctly. So we put where we felt that responsibility should be when it comes to the expenditures of building a new county jail, and that was with the Fulton County Commission, since that's where the tax dollars come out of. And number two is one that is, not to be flippant, but is near and dear to Chairman Albers and myself, is that the City of Atlanta immediately transfer the Atlanta Detention Center to Fulton County to be used for addressing Fulton County needs for safer confinement of detainees awaiting adjudication of criminal cases. And one point that Chairman Albers always made, this facility was built with Fulton County taxpayers' tax dollars, therefore it should be used to benefit Fulton County and the taxpayers who paid to have it built. So that was a good one. Number three was that Fulton County partnered with Georgia Sheriff's Association in bringing experts in. Number four, dealing with maintenance and general maintenance of the facility. Number 5, and please, anybody stop me on the committee if you have any questions or want me to get laser focused. I don't want to get wrapped around the axle at our first public safety meeting. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
One second.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a point of clarification for the other Mr. Chairman. You said that the city jail was built by Fulton County dollars. Can you say more about that? Because my understanding is the Atlanta City Jail, which would be built by city dollars.
We're actually going to have a whole bill to talk about this in a little while,
Okay.
but the premise, just to make sure we're clear on that, is almost all, I think it's like 97% if my numbers are right, of City of Atlanta derives its taxes from people who live in Fulton County. And Atlanta built a jail and then decided a few years later to get out of mostly of the jail business. So part of the overpopulation we have today is a direct result of that. But secondarily, we shouldn't have robbed Peter to pay Paul, because the same taxpayers paid for both, which precedents to that, by the way. When we created all the new cities we've created in the last 20 years, we transferred over, whether it be fire stations, police departments, public works stuff, equipment, apparatus, things of that nature in kind, because you don't want to make the taxpayers pay for something twice. But we're going to talk about that in a separate bill.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And in short, not everybody in Fulton County is a resident of Atlanta, but everybody in Atlanta is a resident of Fulton County.
Well, almost.
Almost, yeah. I'm sorry, in the normal world of the under 158. Fulton County Commission employ a maintenance team of skilled plumbers, electrician, HVAC technicians, and general upkeep experts that are assigned solely to the Fulton County Jail. Number 5, which I felt was important, was the Fulton County Commission established a Fulton County Jail Advisory Board that would consist of individuals representing the Fulton County Commission, the Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney's Office, the Clerk of Courts, and Fulton County Superior Court. Fulton County Commission established policies and procedures that apply to any organization wishing to offer services inside the criminal justice system within Fulton County. These policies must include a verification of tax status, a monthly auditing tool, and a breakdown of how taxpayers' money is allocated within the nonprofit. Number 7, the Fulton County Commission established a task force to identify any duplication of services, technology, and staffing within the Fulton County criminal justice system, which ought to include any services provided by the Fulton County Sheriff's Office and the Atlanta Police Department. And that is simply there in order to do away with duplication of services, which doubles the cost to taxpayers. Number 8, all natural and unnatural deaths that occur inside the Fulton County Jail be reported and investigated in the same manner as any other death within Fulton County. Number 9, all Fulton County Superior Court judges carry full dockets. The reason for that is they don't. Number 10, the Fulton County Clerk of Superior Court established policies and procedures that track all felony cases from arrest to adjudication that can generate monthly reports to be viewed by all agencies within the Fulton County criminal justice system, along with elected members of the Fulton County Commission. Number 11, the Fulton County District Attorney's Office and Office of the Public Defender established policies and procedures that allow for all nonviolent and non-sexual offenses to be expedited within the Fulton County Judicial Circuit. Number 12, the Atlanta Police Department provide all evidence gathered in felony cases submitted to the Fulton County District Attorney's Office for prosecution without the requirement of an open records request. Number 13, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office and the Fulton County District Attorney's Office established policies and procedures related to requests for proposals, or RFPs, that include involving the Fulton County Finance Department as advisors in selecting contractors and for special needs and services not specifically provided for or requested in their annual budgets. 14, the public and private relationship between the county commissioner and sheriff has been tenuous, unprofessional, and not the conduct that citizens should expect. So we advise weekly professional meetings should take place to improve the relationship, trust, and spirit of teamwork to solve problems. 15, the county commission should work with the sheriff to benchmark best practices and industry standards to create and pass a transparent and responsible budget. Once passed, provide oversight and not micromanage of the budget of operations, budget or operations of the sheriff. Number 16, the current workload of the Atlanta Circuit is not completely reported, with Superior Court judges delegating duties to other courts of inquiry or Superior Court judges. This practice should show the court's actual performance. An audit of the court and best practices should be implemented from a people, process, and technology perspective. And finally, 17, the Fulton District Attorney should conduct an audit from a third-party expert to streamline people, process, and outdated technology to expedite the process with the courts to adjudicate cases. And those were the 17 recommendations made by the committee and passed by the committee. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you can see, an extraordinary amount of work was done. Again, I want to thank Chairman Robertson for his effort in pulling this together. The members that served on this committee, just to reiterate, was myself, Senator Halpern, Senator Brian Strickland, Senator Chuck Payne, and Senator Bearden, who came in midway when Senator Dugan departed his Senate career to run for Congress. The reason why these members were chosen, though, I think is important to let everybody know. As a background, obviously, we mentioned Chairman Robertson's amazing experience. Senator Strickland is chairman of our Senate Judiciary Committee, obviously brings a lot to the table. Senator Payne served for over 3 decades as a juvenile probationer officer. Senator Bearden, former law enforcement officer, and myself being involved in public safety for most of my life. So that was the reason we put it together. Again, I want to thank the good work by Chairman Robertson. Any questions? Oh, I just realized we have a late arriving committee member, Leader Jones. We did a very brief introduction. I want to give you a chance to do that real quick. Just tell us who you are and where you represent.
State Senator Harold Jones, Minority Leader out of Augusta, Georgia.
Thank you so much. All right, questions from the committee members? Those lights don't work too often. You have to just. All right, Senator Halpern.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as you said, I was on this study committee, and I do want to just underscore how thorough of a job that we did, led by both of the chairmans here, and how really important all of the testimony that we heard was. These recommendations obviously were not come to lightly. What you'll notice is that because we heard from every single one of the partners in what I would call the justice circle, that is why you see so many different recommendations focused on different elements of, you know, getting somebody from being detained all the way through the process where they will either be sent to a state prison or sent back home. I will say, though, that the one concern that I have, and I don't think I was noticed on the approval of these for the subcommittee, so I definitely was not in attendance for that meeting.
We have not approved these officially. That's what we're going to do today.
As a subcommittee.
Correct.
I thought the chairman said that you did as a subcommittee. Well, anyway.
The chairman, he solicited feedback from everyone.
Okay.
So.
And then shared it back with the chair.
So the one question that I have and that I would like to make a motion to remove if at the right time is the second one, which has to do with the City of Atlanta transferring the detention center to Fulton County. For 2 reasons. One, as you mentioned yourself, we are about to deal specifically with a bill on this. And so it's, and the bill is not this recommendation. It's a derivative of this recommendation. And so that's the one question mark that I have on this particular list of recommendations. Everything else is very well thought through and thought.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it. I think the recommendations from the committee members, including that is important, and I support keeping that in there. The bill is separate. That is certainly one of the outputs from it, but there are certain ways that we have to handle things when it gets to actually drafting a bill versus what a recommendation might be. So their law is a little bit different. So while I appreciate that, and we are a committee of individuals, you certainly have the ability to make that motion, and we'll see where it goes. But I will tell you that I know that Chairman Robertson and I support keeping that in there because it's so important.
Understood. I
Sure.
want to put that on the record. I'd like to see it go, but we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. Other questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator
Just
Jackson.
a point of order. Are we going to vote on this as a whole, or will we vote on each recommendation individually?
We were going to vote on it as a whole. But if you want to try to amend it, you can do that, and we'll see how the votes go. Other questions? Okay. Does anybody want to try to make an amendment to the report?
I would like to amend the report to simply remove recommendation number 2, the City of Atlanta immediately transfer the Atlanta Detention Center to Fulton County to be used for addressing Fulton County needs for safer confinement of detainees awaiting adjudication of criminal cases.
And I've got a second from Senator Jackson, and then discussion is neither Chairman Robertson or the other committee members who did that, I believe, are all in favor of keeping that there. So with that in mind, I will call that amendment to a vote. All those in favor of removing number 2, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And all those against keeping it in there, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that fails. Now we've got the, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the report as written. Do I have a motion?
I will gladly make that motion.
Motion from our committee vice chair and subcommittee chairman. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second from Senator Payne. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. It looks unanimous. Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate the great work being done. All right, which is going to lead us into our very first bill of the session. And we're going to talk about the same topic for a moment. A little bit of background. This was a very important issue, and I want to begin by thanking the people who have been working on it. I want to remind folks that the amount of people that reside in a jail anywhere in Georgia is actually nothing the sheriff can control. It's actually the other parts of the process that are prosecuting, adjudicating cases and things of that nature. Now, the sheriff does obviously have great responsibility in the upkeep, the safety, and everything that happens in that. But there are different legs to that judicial system, and I think that's what Senator Halpern mentioned earlier, which is so true and why we wanted to be comprehensive. But it's important we know our history. And in this case, the Atlanta jail, which I don't know the exact date of it, I don't think it's like 10 or 11 years old, was built at the time that we needed, as a city, made a decision that they needed to house that, and spent a lot of taxpayer dollars to do that. However, when the prior administration, Mayor Bottoms was there, they decided they'd get out of the jail business. Now, to be fair, they were not the only people to get out of the jail business. My home city of Roswell, which used to have a city jail, decided they'd get out of the jail business. All of that helps to increase the volume of everyone who is in the current Fulton County Jail based in Rice Street. That combined with, we had a global pandemic. We had justice was not working for some people. We had some folks in there for 11 years, which is absolutely unfathomable that that would happen. And we've seen a lot of change. There have been some who said, we're going to turn the Atlanta Detention Center, you'll hear it called ADC, into a community center. Let me dispel that rumor right now. You're not going to turn a hardened jail facility into a community center. That's silly even to say out loud. And knowing, again, that I think it's almost 97%, I'm sure somebody here will have the exact number, of Atlanta's tax revenue in total comes from the people that live and work in Fulton County. They did, in fact, pay for almost all of that jail, and taxpayers don't care. To them, they're just paying tax. Whether it goes to rob Peter to pay Paul really doesn't make a difference. But what does make a difference is making sure that we're doing two things. We're making sure the justice systems work for people, because when you go to jail, you're innocent until proven guilty. It's not until you are convicted and sentenced that you would move to the state prison system. So we have folks in there who should be absolutely understood that they are innocent until proven guilty. But there's another component here, too. I applaud the city. I have met with the mayor and some of his top staff several times, that they have some priorities, of which I agree with. One of their priorities that they've told me many times is we want to separate out those non-violent offenders who are in the midst of some very violent offenders. We also are very concerned about those who are mentally and medically fragile. Couldn't agree more. So, working with them as well as our partners at Fulton County to come up with an option that you could take the Atlanta Detention Center, which is new, or newer, I should say, and you could use that facility for those purposes. In fact, it would need a very small amount of jailers. You'd actually have more mental health counselors, nurses, and other medical professionals helping those folks to separate that, because the person who is a young mom who had the extra glass of wine and got a DUI and broke the law is not the same issue as someone who has been arrested for double murder and is a part of a criminal street gang. They're very, very different folks sitting in the jail. Also, we've seen a very large uptick in those who are having criminal infractions due to mental illness. We've seen that a lot. So we want to separate those folks out. Secondarily, it's important to know when they built the Rice Street Jail many, many years ago, it was built with single bunks, single cell sizes. Within a couple of years, they were already so oversubscribed, they had the double bunk. So there's already 2 bunks in the jail that was made for 1. And we know that one of the single biggest things you can do to prevent violence and take it down, in some cases up to 80%, is to put people in single bunk cells. So if we separate these 2 populations out, it would give Fulton County the opportunity. I know they've got Tiger teams that already go in and try to rehab the jail. They can single bunk, they can clean up, they can harden that facility, and the taxpayers are not going to pay of what some estimates were $1.7 billion on an entirely new jail, which makes no sense. So my goal, by the way, was never to get to legislation. I met with both sides multiple times, and a goal that they would work that out together. My goal is they would just, at a nominal fee, turn the jail over from Atlanta to Fulton County. And I think the math is pretty easy. If my estimation is accurate, that 97% or so of the funds that built that jail came from Fulton County taxpayers, let's say that that building is worth $100 million. Fulton County ought to pay $3 million for the amount that the DeKalb taxpayers paid, so everything is fair and right, and then transfer the facility over. If that can't be done, then do a very long-term lease. There's currently a lease to use some of those beds today, but that lease actually ends very shortly from now. And while I think the current mayor has done a great job in working in good faith, we don't know who the next mayor may or may not be, which is of a concern. I cannot legislatively force the sale of the jail, but we can, and that's what Senate Bill 7 does, which we're going to talk about now, which is forces that to be used as a jail, and only that jail, and to be leased to the county at a very reasonable rate, which it should be, to solve this crisis and problem. It's a real simple solution. We are going to pass this bill, and it's going to get signed into law unless we can get those 2 groups to come to a reasonable conclusion, which I think that they should and they could. And I know we're going to hear from some of them today. But make no mistake, this is an easily solvable problem if we'll all let our egos and everything go down and just work on solving the problem. So with that in mind, you have in front of you Senate Bill 7, which is LC 473188. And you will, I'm not going to read this to you, but it's very specifically tailored in the first few lines that this will only have to do with the Atlanta Detention Center and only have to do with the Fulton County Jail. It was tailored that way specifically, and you'll see that when you get to line 20, how it will be used, and making sure that this is a very simple, reasonable way to have a long-term opportunity for the county to lease it should there not be a sale to take place. Again, it's very straightforward. I hope we don't need this legislation to be passed by the Senate and the House and signed into law by the governor, but we will. So with that in mind, we're going to get the sign-up sheets. And while we're doing that, I'm going to ask if there are any questions from the committee members. I see Senator Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this bill, it doesn't give any out for the jail in the event of, say, a significant catastrophe. Let's say that the pipes burst. This is such a apropos, scenario. The pipes burst and the jail is not in a condition to be able to receive people. This bill does not allow for that, right? It doesn't allow for portions of the jail to be taken offline for significant repairs. It just says if the sheriff wants a bed and there's a bed available, then the sheriff can get the bed. And so I'm just concerned about making sure that there are provisions for, in the event that the jail is just not in a place where it can house people, that is an option.
I'm sure when they work out the T's and C's, Senator, between the city and county, they can address that. We have maintenance and issues that arise in all facilities, no matter they're government or private, and I'm sure we'll be able to easily overcome something like that.
But this bill doesn't provide, it says shall, it doesn't provide for those T's and I's and C's to be addressed, because this lays out that it shall happen. If the sheriff asks for it, they shall get it. Even if the city may have reasonable reasons why beds are not available, this bill does not allow for that.
Well, Senator, I think you're getting into what could be a legal contract and a lease they could sign with each other to work out the T's and C's together, but we're not going to put every single thing into the actual legislation itself. We're going to hope that some smart people sit down and work out a process, because it also doesn't put the exact dollar amount that they're going to lease that for or anything else. So that's when the two parties will come together and work out those specifics. Senator Robertson.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just not catching up today or what. Your legislation would allow for the lease of the entire facility.
It'll allow them to make all beds available so the sheriff can use that, and it would be at a reasonable rate, which means they would have to work out some type of a contract.
Okay. So if that were the case, it would be really no different than me wanting to check into a hotel. If there were some catastrophe and beds were not available, then beds would not be available, correct?
That is a good analogy.
So if beds are available, then I would be able to use those beds. But if not, then of course the beds would not be available, correct?
Sure.
Okay,
That's
just making
exactly
sure
right.
I'm tracking.
And the cost is going to be actual. We're not going to charge a premium. Again, we're not going to try and rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
Senator Halpern, one second.
Thank you, Mike Gray. I have a question about this bill, and it really relates to local control, because there are a lot of different kinds of assets that a city owns. And we've got tons of municipalities in Fulton County. It's the most municipalized county in the state. And so I'm confused, and I'm wondering why it is that for this asset, the city is being relieved of being able to make any decisions for itself, and then let me circle back around to what's actually happening today, in order to force them to provide this opportunity to the county, when this does not actually resolve the problems that the jail is having right now. Because right now, there are 700, but right now today, there is an intergovernmental agreement between the city and the county. The city and the county are already working together, and in fact, the city is the one that came to the county and said, let's do this agreement because of the emergency that was the overcrowding in the Fulton County Jail. Today, they already have access to 700 beds through that intergovernmental agreement. It is in fact working just as it should, the city and the county playing well together. But Fulton County, the sheriff, in fact, is not using 700 beds that he already has access to because of other problems that aren't going to be resolved just by giving him full access to a building. If this got signed into law today, he still wouldn't be able to take advantage of all those beds, as he's not able to with the agreement in place. So my question really is more, why would the state get in the middle of, I'm going to say, I'm a mom, if I've got 2 kids who are squabbling and they can't work it out, then I step in to play referee. But in this particular case, this neither resolves the issue that the overcrowding of the jail has, and at the same time, you've got both parties already working in good faith together, met as recently as in the last 2 days or so, and again the week before, and they have had ongoing meetings to resolve the issue. Why do we need the muscle of the state to come in to dictate that?
That's a great question. Let me address a few things that you mentioned. It is true that there is currently an IGA that does end the next couple months. So it actually already has an end date to that now. It could be extended, but as of right now, it is not. Second part is if Fulton County finally does have the ability to have a second facility, then they can truly separate their populations completely. But you can't be half-baked or half-pregnant through this process, and that's where it is right now. There needs to be a long, permanent solution. And again, you will be able to staff things very differently when you can separate your populations out, because you need a lot less jailers for a nonviolent, medically and mentally fragile community than you do for, again, criminal street gang members who have got a list of felony charges against them. They're just very different people. So yes, I would certainly hope this had worked out, but when there are big public statements, and it's a public safety issue, so much that we had to form a subcommittee over it, and we're talking about what is almost $2 billion for our capital city and our capital county, yes, we had to get involved. I'm aware of the conversation that happened even a couple of days ago, and I know they're talking about selling it now, which is wonderful. And I hope that they will come back and finally get that done and work out a solution. But in lieu of that, we have to act sometimes because this is our capital city, this is our capital county, and we need people to do the right thing.
Follow up, if I may.
Sure.
So why would we not then mandate that the county put all of the behavioral health, mental health people in the 700 beds that they already have access to? If it's a question of staffing, why is it that the county and really under the sheriff's lead not then already have figured out for themselves how to manage the detainees that they have to hold? I think part of the problem that we saw in the Department of Justice report, unfortunately, yes, there are issues with the building itself, the physical structure itself. There's no question about that. But so much of the DOJ report focused less on that, which this resolves just, we need more buildings, right? We need more beds. We need different assets to house the people. But that report focused much more on elements this bill doesn't touch at all.
And I think we actually did a more thorough analysis than the DOJ did in some of the cases, but we went through all the different issues. We cannot solve the staffing issue, as an example, that they have in the jail. We cannot solve the immediate need they might have. I know they've got tiger teams working in the jail. We cannot solve the fact that we had some judges working less than 10 hours a week, and cases that were put on hold for years and years of time. But this is something we can physically do that can make a real big difference. And again, the goal is to make sure we have people who are innocent until proven guilty to get this done. And we've had folks who are members of the Atlanta City Council who said, no, we should implode it, tear it down, or make it into a community center. These are the elected officials that are representing that. And you know, that's really an unfortunate posture for people to take when we have other folks who could be using that facility in a longer, more thoughtful manner. And I trust that the city and county will work out those T's and C's. But until then, I think we do have to play that arbiter, unfortunately. All right, other questions? Senator Bearden.
I'm going to see if you can help me clear this up a little bit. Because lines 18, 20, and 21. On 18, municipal detention facility or jail at the disposal of such sheriff. Then line 20, in the event the sheriff requests the use of. So we're going to have Fulton County jailers in this facility, correct?
That would be correct.
Who owns the facility? Is Fulton County taking over, or is the city of Atlanta still owner?
So today, the Fulton County Jail is owned by the county. The Atlanta Detention Center is owned by the city. There is an intergovernment agreement where they're allowed to use some of that today. And you do have folks that work for Fulton County and the sheriff's office who come over, jailers, to help out with the people that have incarcerated there. However, long-term, the goal would be is to give them kind of full run of what they're going to need to do in order to operate it as a whole separate facility of their own.
Okay.
Other questions? We do have some folks signed up to speak here. One more question from Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure I'm tracking this properly. I hear you saying that the jail was paid for by 97% of Fulton County residents, so it's the same kind of money. But what I think is happening is, for example, I bought a house, I put down a percentage. For ease, let's say I put down 7%. The bank owns, really, in fact, the bank owns the property. But the bank can't say, hey, Kim, you've got an extra bedroom, so you must put somebody in this bedroom because we paid for the majority of this house. Like, we paid for 93% of it, so we therefore demand that you put somebody in your open bedroom. We would not allow that to happen to ourselves in our personal lives and our personal homes. So I'm confused about why we are saying to city-owned property, hey, you've got empty beds, therefore you must let somebody else use them. I don't care if you pay for it or not. We're still demanding that another entity take in guests that they didn't ask for. And is that what we're doing here?
I don't believe so. Senator, what you're mentioning is something very personal to you and your home. What we're talking about is something that's owned by the taxpayers, and we're talking about a public safety crisis in some cases that we're trying to solve. And again, there's precedents here before. We have formed cities all over Fulton County. We formed Sandy Springs. We formed Milton, Johns Creek, City of South Fulton. And when that happened, we transferred all of those assets to the cities because the county taxpayers, who are the same people, paid for them. And we did that because most of them were public safety related. So there are already precedents set in the law today that we have done in the past that does this. And again, my goal would be for them to have worked it out for themselves. But as of we speak right now, they have not. And that's why we're unfortunately having this meeting today. All right, any other questions before we get some public testimony? All right, we're going to go, if you could please come up to the podium. Let's see, I've got, is that Elder Dancy, is that right? Am I reading that right? Come on forward here to the podium, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair, and other distinguished members for allowing me to have this opportunity. I am Elder Dancy. I'm the interim chief for the City of Atlanta Department of Corrections. I want to start by saying I definitely understand the challenges that Fulton County is having. And as mentioned, we have worked with them to develop an IGA. That IGA actually started in December of 2022, and it's a 4-year agreement, so it does not end until December of 2026. In addition to that interagency agreement that we also have MOU with Fulton County, where we will have, under emergency circumstances, we would open our doors and house individuals during that time, which they have taken advantage of. We have a great working relationship with Sheriff Labat and his team. We meet with them bi-weekly to ensure everyone is on the same page. But as we build out this IGA, we had several working groups to ensure that we were on the same page, because of course we are utilizing the space to house pretrial detainees for city ordinance violations, as well as state traffic violations other than the vehicular homicide and ag assault. I believe our municipal court has jurisdictional responsibility over that. Available, we've made 702 beds available to Fulton County to utilize through this IGA. They started out I think, roughly around the low 400s. Currently, we're at approximately 360. So those numbers have dropped over the last, since 2022 of December. We currently house ACDC detainees there as well. And then during this working group, there were several things that we wanted to ensure was met, operational and administrative needs. We have ACA accreditation, for example, and of course other state and federal mandates that we're required to meet. Our facility is different in Fulton County. They have indirect supervision. We have direct supervision, so we wanted to ensure that their team was up to speed on that. So there are a lot of things administratively and operationally that we had to meet and agree upon. And we worked through that, and I think the relationship has been great from my opinion. Obviously, it's ongoing. It's a jail. I also saw in the bill where I didn't see any specifics on the costs, direct or indirect. I know that we have experienced some unforeseen costs while housing these detainees, because of course ACDC is built as a pretrial jail, so it's only for temporary short-term housing. Some of the Fulton County detainees have been there for an extended period of time, so there have been challenges with that, with costs, unforeseen costs, and maintenance and reoccurring costs that we have had to address. So those are just a few concerns I would have with the immediate takeover. And obviously we have currently about 115, 110 detainees, and that number fluctuates. That we're moving through the municipal court on a daily basis, every day except Saturday. In addition to that, we also have a relationship with the federal government where we temporarily house detainees that are in the city for court. And we also have a relationship with the state DOC, where we work with their work detail detainees that in transfer release. Our team is responsible for overseeing and partnering with them to provide services in the city outside of ACDC to ensure that they meet the state mandate as well. That's all I have. I will, Chair, if you allow, take questions if necessary. But thank you again for this opportunity.
Chief, thank you first and foremost for your service. We appreciate that and your testimony today. I believe you brought up a couple of key points. The facility that ATDC is today, or ADC, I'm sorry, is today, is really not designed for a long-term violent offender that might be in there. It's made for people who are supposed to be a quicker turnaround and people who are less violent. So would it not resonate that if that's what that facility was used for exclusively, it would probably make a whole lot of sense?
So we have 22 pods. 4 of those pods are special management, and they are designed to house detainees with certain mental challenges, medical challenges. So we, along with Fulton County, share that space. But the other pods, yeah, they are housing units, I'm sorry. They are coordinated and arranged for short-term stay, so that would be more suitable. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Questions of committee members? Senator Wicks, their first question.
Thank you for your attendance today, sir. I just have one question for you. How many beds do you currently have in ACDC?
So our operating capacity is just a little over 13. I'm sorry, our actual capacity is a little over 1,300, I believe 1,314, and our operating capacity is 1,185. However, currently there are 4 housing units that are inoperable, so we're doing maintenance on those. So I think we currently have about 800, a little over 800 that's available. I'm sorry, 900 that's available, approximately.
All right. Other questions from the committee members? Senator Robertson.
Hey, Chief, I appreciate you coming here today and representing the city of Atlanta, and appreciate what you do every day. Just a few quick questions. You said you have 1314's capacity, correct?
Actual capacity,
Right.
yes, sir.
And are those individual cells, how's your pod or your housing area set up? Is it dorm style? Is it open bay style? Or is it individual cell style?
Yes, sir. We have one floor that is open bay style. The other ones are dorm style with two per cell
So
occupancy. Other than the special management cells, there are only one per cell.
Are the open bay also double bunked?
Yes, sir. No, they are just open, kind of like, well, we do have beds side by side, but not double bunk.
Right,
in
so,
open bay.
but in the cuts, in the open bay, in the cuts, is it two single beds side by side like
Yes, sir.
that? Okay. And you said 1314 is your capacity?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and why does that number drop down to 1185?
Well, 1185, I would say, is our operating capacity, just in case there's an emergency, which happens sometimes, or a plumbing issue where we have to immediately move the detainees to another area. So we don't want to max out totally to ensure that we have that flexibility to move the detainees around when necessary.
Okay, and you said you had how many housing units that were inoperable?
4 currently.
And why are they inoperable?
Just maintenance issues, but they are currently under construction.
What do we mean by maintenance issues?
Well, mainly plumbing issues. We've had, in the past, we've had a leak. The facility was built, I don't know if I mentioned that, between 1993 and 95. So it's close to 30 years old. And so we've had some maintenance concerns, some leaks, so we are repairing the tile and walls and so forth. But that's obviously ongoing.
And you said you house city ordinance violations there?
Yes, sir.
How many people do you have in a holding facility for a violation of a city ordinance?
So it fluctuates. We also have traffic charges as well.
Right, I just want to focus
yes,
on the
sir.
city ordinance charges if we can. If you can give me an example of a city ordinance that you would hold somebody inside of a detention center for.
So disorderly conduct would be one, fighting, for example, and obviously it depends on their criminal background and history. It was up to the municipal court judge to make a determination. Most of them are in and out within maybe a couple of days. Obviously, some are sentenced based on their prior history.
And the direct and indirect supervision is, what you're saying there is only the difference between a control room and somebody inside the cell block with the detainees, is that correct?
Correct.
So is your detention center, there are no control rooms, correct?
We have one main central control room, and then in the special management unit,
Right.
we have a small control room there. The other pods are operated by the central control room,
And
and
the-
you have an officer inside.
And the only purpose of that central control room is to open the door to allow the supervising officer to go in, correct?
Correct.
And then the supervising officer lives in that space during his or her shift until time to leave, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And all of your individuals in there are pretrial, correct?
Pre-trial, yes.
Right. And in the Fulton County Jail, with rare exception, all the individuals in there are pretrial also, correct?
I can't answer for them, but I think that's the premise, yes. I
Right, if
think
not
that's
be, they would be in the GDOC or they would be heading home, right?
correct, or waiting to be transferred to
Right.
GDOC,
Right.
yes.
All right, thank you, Chief, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief. I appreciate you coming. We're going to have to keep moving. I've got Commissioner Ellis here and County Manager Dick Anderson. Do you both want to talk or separately? All right. Thank you, Dick. I appreciate it.
I think there's a state law between both of them talking.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you very much for having us. Some of what I would have said has already been said, so I won't retread that ground, but I will give you some specifics. The first is Fulton County Jail is part of an overall system. You already said that. Do want you to know that we have been investing in that system, $80 million in ARPA dollars in the last 3 years to reduce the backlog of cases that came vis-a-vis COVID. 90% of those cases have been resolved, but the performance of that justice system still struggles. We track it now daily and report on it monthly. I'll give you a couple of examples. The one most pertinent to the jail is average length of stay. That has dropped from 71 days in May of 23 to 48 days now. The goal, though, is 30 days, so still more work to be done. The jail population unindicted dropped from 34% in May of 23 to 16%. The goal is 10%. The reason that's important, that's really starts the clock ticking when a case is indicted. Felony cases cleared in 365 days are at 56% versus a goal of 98%. So again, a good indication of why the problem, if you will, moves to the jail. We think case management standards being implemented as well as potential possible judicial positions being expanded are key. However, since May of 23, which was our high point of over 3,600 folks in incarceration in Fulton County jail locations, that has dropped now to below 2,500 as of 1/15 of this year. 1,600 of those are at Rice Street. 350, as already mentioned, is at ACDC, 255 at Cobb and others. We have 2,200 beds at Rice Street, but 500 to 700 are out of service at any one point in time, being addressed by a jail blitz program to completely rehabilitate all of the living units, which we think will be completed in May of this year. By the way, we also fund, from the county perspective, 800 to 1,000 folks being on ankle monitors, removing them from being incarcerated at a cost of around $2 million a year. As has been discussed, we currently use and staff ACDC, which is a critical point to remember. We're both using it and staffing it at about, again, 350 or so on average, $50 a day. We're incurring about $7 million in cost annually. Those costs, if eliminated, either vis-a-vis an ownership transfer or some nominal lease, obviously could be put into effective staffing of the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. We also pay $4.5 million to Cobb, so putting those two together, over $10 million. As you know, we now have a DOJ review and consent order that's been approved by a jail. So that is truly our focus and has over 300 items to be addressed. The majority of those DOJ findings are more in the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, but the facility is a critical component, and you could see that from reading the report. Our Board of Commissioners has authorized a jail program management team, which is one of your recommendations in your report. ACOM is the lead on that, and that company and their partners have started their work, and within 6 months, we'll have a full assessment of Rice Street Jail from stem to stern with a complete renovation plan. That renovation plan will be funded by a $300 million bond issue, which is planned and has been approved by our Board of Commissioners. But ACDC represents a unique opportunity, and I think it's already been stated. Not only is it an underutilized asset, which you can do the math yourself and has already been paid for, it has close proximity to the courts, and we think would serve as a special purpose facility. Both medically challenged behavioral health issues and even female detainees would much more appropriately be housed there versus housed at Rice Street. We have asked the company, ACOM, that is doing our study of all facilities, to, as a first priority, take a look at ACDC as that special purpose facility, which would obviate us having to build such a facility. And one of the things, again, just to underscore, which again has already been said, and I've been, since being the county manager for 10 years, I have seen the transfer of county-owned funded assets to cities, which makes perfect sense. Police stations, fire stations, parks, to not have the taxpayer, which I am a Fulton County taxpayer, pay twice over. This is just the reverse of that. We have state law that governs when a city is created. We don't have state law that's in place when a situation like this arises. So I want to thank the committee for this recommendation. And Vice Chair Ellis, I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah. I just wanted to amplify, thank you, Senators, and just wanted to amplify the last point. You know, if we were fully utilizing this particular facility to that 750 beds, that would be $12.7 million annually that we would have to pay. In addition to that, we're paying the cost to staff the facility for not all of it, but for many of the supervisory needs. So that's at a cost of $50 a day. Contrast that, we are outsourcing some inmates to other facilities around the state for as low as $60 a day and not providing any supervisory staff with those, right? So It's a fairly expensive proposition for us right now. We don't have yes, it would be nice if we could reach an agreement with the city of Atlanta without state intervention, but as our county managers noted, the state did put in place specific mechanisms to sort of force these quick agreements with cities and counties when we have cities that are formed for the transfer. And we may need your assistance with that. If we had the ability to take $12 million and apply it towards staffing as opposed to just a lease payment, I think the whole system would significantly benefit. So just
Thank you so much. I appreciate your all's testimony here. We have a problem. We're going to get kicked out of our room. So I'm going to pause on that. I'm going to give Chairman Tillery, I'm sorry you had to wait so long. Would you just do a quick overview of your bill? Give us 1 minute. This way we could take testimony at the next hearing, and I know you're busy taking care of the budget and that important stuff, and we can work offline before we come back and make sure we have plenty of time for the other folks to testify.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman Albers. I think you're talking about Senate Bill 21.
Correct.
It's a very simple bill. It doesn't actually add any additional requirements for immigration policies in our state. It simply says that the Georgia laws that we have already passed here, mainly wrapped up in House Bill 1105 last year, have a little bit more teeth to them. Those teeth being that if a city or county or local official does not enforce those immigration rules our General Assembly as a whole has already passed, that they waive their sovereign immunity if something bad were to happen because of that.
Excellent. I appreciate your work on this. Thank you for your time with Legislative Council. I know we found a couple of things that we had passed last year in House Bill 1105 that we probably will not have to reiterate this time. So you and I and Leg Council and some stakeholders will meet with that before we come back on Wednesday. For those that signed up to speak on Senate Bill 7 or 21, I'm sorry we ran out of our room quicker than we thought today. Busy calendars, and we'll indulge you. We'll have another committee meeting on Wednesday. We'll be back in this room. We will continue taking testimony then. For anyone who has a specific suggestion, idea, or thought, you're more than welcome to please send this our way. Mr. Will Spencer is here next to me, and he can gather all that information for you. But look forward to moving these important pieces of legislation forward later this week. Thank you. This meeting is hereby adjourned.